1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 2, 3. 2, 1, 2, 3.
What's going on, guys? We're sitting here with Kyler Hardison. He was a jiu-jitsu student of mine since he was 15. He went into the Marine Corps, has tours around the world. He got into executive protection, and he also fought in Ukraine. So he's here to tell his story. And so tell us about yourself.
Kyler Hardison, formerly known as Sergeant Hardison or Hardy. That's what all my friends call me. I served with 3rd Battalion, 5th Marine, Scout Sniper Platoon, Dark Horse, 3-5 Get Some. Was in the infantry before I was in the Scout Sniper Platoon. And like you were saying, did executive protection all of 2022, and then spent about half of this year in Ukraine.
2017, you enlisted in the Marine Corps, right?
Yep.
So can we talk about your experience enlisting and everything that kind of went on at first, and how big of a shock was it for you, the lifestyle change and everything else, and tell us about those spectacular sand fleas at Paris Island.
Oh, yeah.
So
I signed up right after high school around March 2016. I wanted to go recon, so I had to wait a couple months for my contract, and then I finally shipped out January 29th, 2017. I went to Paris Island for 13 weeks, and it's a whole nother world, especially coming from civilian life. Sand fleas are probably the most memorable moment throughout everything. Remember my instructors, we were doing PT in the mornings. It had just rained, so all the sand fleas buried in the ground. And we're doing push-ups, and they're just screaming, wake them up, wake them up. And you just have this cloud over top of you of sand fleas, and that's something that's stuck with me ever since.
Yeah, that's crazy. As far as recon training goes, is there anything that you remember that really stands out that you've either found very useful or very memorable in that training?
I say the pool. Most people are either good on land or good in the pool. Some freaks of nature are good at both. I did okay in the pool, but even being pretty well trained and prepping, even before I joined the Marine Corps, I knew I was going to do recon training. So I was always swimming, always trying to prep myself and just become tougher mentally, because that's all it is in the water. Doesn't matter, even if you're not in good shape, if you're tough, you'll get through it. And just seeing guys who are just tanks, just all muscle, super tough, super strong, great on land, and just watching the water break these grown men. So that's another thing, kind of like the jiu-jitsu, of just calming down and relaxing. It's kind of how it translates into the water. Just guys just getting amped up and freaking out, and you can't do that when you're holding your breath.
Yeah. We've actually implemented a rule for graduation where every cadet needs to learn how to swim.
That's an amazing life skill.
Yeah.
Not only physically, but mentally, just being calm and relaxed and being able to control your emotions in stressful situations.
Yeah.
I know guys who have, seen combat, and the water still scares them. So
it's crazy to think, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
You'd think it'd be quite the opposite, but
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm terrified of deep water, to be honest with you. Scuba diving would probably scare me. Depends on the water. But it's a pretty cool rule that we made for that. I always joke with people when I tell them they need to learn how to swim and learn how to fight, because the world is 70% water and it's 100% people.
Yeah.
And I totally stole that from somebody, but still,
like
the quote still stands up.
I might steal that from you now.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. It's somebody much more famous than I said that, so yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, got a recon, and Jordan, was that your first overseas deployment?
Yep. We left from San Diego May 2019. We left on ship. Stopped in Hawaii, did some jungle training, which was my first intro to real humidity. I thought it was bad in the South, but once you get to like Southeast Asia, it's a whole nother world. After that, my ship broke down, went to Guam just because they had to do repairs. Got to do some snorkeling and stuff, so that was cool, especially being on deployment, being able to have some free time. Then we went to Oman because my ship broke down a second time. And then one day in Africa, Djibouti, and then spent a little bit over a month in Jordan, which was kind of the highlight of my entire deployment, training Jordanians, Saudi Arabians, and Italians. So it was a really awesome experience.
So what was Jordan like where you were at?
So I don't know exactly where we were. I was also only a Lance Corporal, so I didn't get the full debrief. But we were pretty much in the middle of nowhere. Looked like Mars as far as you could see, nothing but sand. I think I only saw 2 goats and a lizard for the entire time that I was there. But that was my first time interacting with another culture, and that was a really awesome experience, some really kind people. So that was pretty life-changing for me. I made one really good friend that was Jordanian, and he taught me some Arabic. So that was really cool, making friends with him and spending pretty much every day with him for a little bit over a month.
Gotcha. And you've played around with a lot of different languages. How many did you say you got to at least learn a little bit in?
Probably 5 or 6. Just a couple phrases and pretty much everything I could get a hold of. People really appreciate you taking the time to learn their language, so it definitely helps make friends, and you get a lot of perks out of it. So even if you just know hello and thank you and please, people make friends with you and love you forever just for doing that.
You got any funny stories from time over there, that first deployment?
I was actually talking about learning languages. I had made friends with that guy, and one of the CEOs for my company was trying to get everyone's attention, and he just kind of stuck up and yelling at everybody, "Hey, come here, come here, come here," and no one's listening. And I just yelled in Arabic, and they all came running, and he looked at me like I was crazy. I think he was a captain, and I was a lance corporal, and he was just absolutely perplexed. So
nice.
That was a pretty funny experience.
Is Arabic a hard language to learn?
It is. I'm sure I mispronounce everything, but they understand that I'm a foreigner, so they kind of give me a little bit of leeway. As far as writing it, I've looked into it some. It's way beyond my intelligence. Everything looks like noodles, and I think if you write it in certain sentences, they cut like part of the letters off, so you don't see everything, and it's super complex, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. You've and then after Jordan, where'd you go after that?
After Jordan, I went to Brunei, which is in Malaysia. So that was actually really cool. They're some of my favorite people in the world. Super kind, very humble. So spent a little bit over a month in the jungle out there.
What's it like over there? I've never been there.
Oh, man. Our first day there, we were training for hours. It's like midday. And I remember the officer came over and said, excuse me, it's 110 degrees and 100% humidity. When are we going to take a break? Because they don't train the same way we do. We were hurting, of course, because it's not our environment. But the Marines were just like, hey, we're just going to keep doing this until we're done training. So I remember them coming over to ask for a break, which was pretty funny. But the bugs are insane. And it was about 100, 110 every single day. And then at night, the worst thunderstorms I've ever had in my life. So we built shelters, and the first night mine collapsed. So I was in my underwear with another buddy with the tarp over us, waiting for the sun to come up.
Oh, man. So did you spend all your Malaysia time in the jungle?
Yes, about 98% of it. And I think we had 2 or 3 days that we went and did kind of a tour of Brunei with their soldiers, which was really cool. And then we had kind of a mess night where they had some live music, and some of the soldiers who were pretty talented performed, and everyone kind of sat, mixed in, and integrated together, which was really cool.
So if you can talk about it, like what exactly were you doing there? Were you just doing cross-training?
Yep, we were just cross-training. So some of the tactics and stuff, which at least what I learned at the time didn't really apply to the jungle, but just like firearms and stuff. We were able to show some of those tactics, and then they taught us all kinds of cool stuff. I wish I remembered more of it, but it was pretty much a hip pocket classes on traps and getting animals and kind of like Rambo style pits and whatnot. So that was a really awesome experience.
I bet you had to be fun, yeah.
We were getting ready to push out to do a training exercise, and my buddy turns around, and his eyes were huge, and he just said, "Don't move." And I remember looking in the corner of my eye, and this huge white spider was on my chest, and he went to punch it, and he missed. It was too fast.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, everything over there is just hyper speed, way bigger. Ants you can see like 25 feet away crawling on trees and leaves and stuff. Everything is just massive.
Oh, dude, ants are smart, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Especially over there. I saw a video where ants were trying to eat slugs, and there's just too much mucus on them.
Yeah.
So the ants would throw dirt on it to soak up all of the stuff, the goo, and then they would eat the slug.
That is cool.
Or like when they cross rivers, they connect their bodies, they make bridges of ants.
I think I've seen some of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
It's insane, man. Like ants are just crazy smart. Where'd you go after that?
I think we stopped in Hawaii again just for liberty. We didn't do any training this time, which I was grateful for. I was pretty tapped out on the jungle.
And what year was this?
2019.
You were in Hawaii the same time as another person I know who was stationed there for the Navy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it would have been, y'all both trained with me, by the way. It would have been nice for you two to bump into each other.
That would have been neat.
Cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Man, so how'd you like Hawaii? Pretty chill?
I actually like Guam more than Hawaii.
Really?
When I went to Hawaii, at least the areas I went to, I don't remember which islands, all the coral was dead, not a lot of fish, like super overpopulated. And Guam, I mean, you can see over 100 feet underwater. all the coral. Looks like Finding Nemo, eels, fish. Swam with some black-tip reef sharks on accident.
Wow.
They just kind of showed up. But, yeah, no, Guam was 10 times better than Hawaii, in my opinion.
Did you, how long were you at Guam?
I want to say about 2 weeks.
Nice.
And I free dove every day for like 10 hours.
Oh, man.
Also the worst sunburn I've ever had in my life. I was
bet.
almost purple.
Was that your first time free diving?
Yep.
Give me a rundown of free diving. Like, explain it and anything cool you got to go with that.
So I went and bought my own equipment because I think I went once or twice just swimming out there, and I was like, this is incredible. But sometimes there's kind of a strong current. So I bought fins, a snorkel, a mask. So free diving is just no equipment as far as a respirator or anything like that. So you just kind of go out, hold your breath, and dive down and check everything out. So it's one of the best things in the world. I actually started doing it once I came back to the States in California where I was stationed at. But, yeah, that free diving is life-changing. Something about the water.
Yeah, it is. It's I bet you it's pretty relaxing.
Oh,
just
yeah.
going in like that. Yeah.
It's kind of getting into the zone. And
Is it, you've done like snorkeling and you've done like diving. Is free diving like you don't have tank on you?
right.
So it does feel a little more free.
Right, yeah.
I'm assuming, yeah.
Mhm.
And probably better, like, you have to always think about managing things a little bit differently.
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely have to get way more relaxed, especially you're being out there for hours. You may have went like a quarter mile offshore and there's a current. So you're just, the whole time you're just trying to relax, and it's just like super decompressing. You're going underwater and you get, maybe 15, 20 feet or something, and you kind of feel the pressure, but it's like relaxing. And you're just kind of like using your equilibrium and everything to just kind of mellow out down there, and it's incredible. It's hard to explain. I guess my highlight in Djibouti, Africa, I got to pet some wild donkeys.
Wild donkeys.
Yeah, that was about the highlight of that. We actually had a really bad mass casualty of heat case. A bunch of guys overheating. I think it was over 100, and we were in the old APC tracked vehicles that are amphibious.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when we went back into the water, you could hear the sizzle on the metal when all the vehicles hit the water.
Wow.
And we got back, and there was just medics running around, and I think halfway through they told us to take our gear off just because it was so hot and they couldn't open up the top hatches. So once we got back to ship, we opened it up, and it was about 100 degrees out, and it felt cold when we all got out.
He's like, you're basically sitting in an oven at that point.
Yeah, pretty much a
Wow.
tuna can with tank tracks on it.
I guess you got a little resilience training from all the heat.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I guess you got a little bit of that from like when we were used to train jiu-jitsu, and you get those big guys that just smother you
Oh, yeah.
when it was hot. We've had a few times when the AC wasn't working there.
Oh.
And I remember one time at the gym you started at when I had with the garage door.
Yep.
And I think we took like a 4-day weekend 1 week, and I showed back up on Tuesday. And I went to open up the doors, and when I opened up the gym doors, like hot air hit me in the face.
Oh, man.
One of the kids that you used to train with put the AC on 95 or something like that, and it ran for 4 days.
Wow.
So all the posters melted off the walls, like because they were on there by that epoxy stuff,
Yep.
and everything just fell off the walls, and it was crazy, man. And my electric bill was great that month,
I can't imagine.
Oh my god, it was already summer, so it still felt, it's
Yeah.
like, why? But yeah, crazy, man, crazy. Have you been able to keep up with anybody we used to train with?
Just Steve.
Just Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still talk to Cody every once in a while.
Okay.
I talked to Tavon the other day. Apparently he's gotten into some voice acting work, which is pretty
Oh,
cool.
really?
Yeah, so.
You can get pretty good money off of that.
Yeah,
I got a buddy
yeah.
that does that in L.A.
Nice, really. Yeah, my son wants to get into that. He's been trying really hard.
That's
Both of
awesome.
my kids are really good at it. They have those voices that you can pretty much be anybody.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's I'm really hoping it works for him.
That'd be awesome.
I'm at that point now where like my kid's getting older, and I'm at the balance of wanting him to continue to progress his education, but at the same time let him try different things.
Right.
And it's a tough balance.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I want him to play to his talents, and he seems to have a really good personality when he gets behind a microphone. So we'll see how that goes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it
That'd
beats
be
just
cool.
what he's doing now. He's like has a YouTube channel, and he makes his little bit of money doing reaction videos and
That's cool.
stuff with
It's
his
a good
crazy.
start.
Yeah, it is a
Yeah.
good start. It's good practice for him.
Oh, 100%.
I went up there. I snuck up there one day. He's gonna hate me for saying this, but I went up there one day, and he was script practicing, like with his friends.
Yep.
So they were reading scripts, but it was the most messed up stuff, dude. And like, I have no idea the context of what he was saying, but I was like, if your mom came up here right now, dude, she'd have some questions for you. But he was like, no, Dad, it's a script. I'm like, man, come on,
Yeah.
So yeah, got a good kick out of
That's
that.
awesome.
I wish Noel could have came up for this. He would have had a blast, just chilling. But
And Thomas?
Thomas, you mean the police officer Thomas? Yeah, I just saw a picture of him 2 days ago. I haven't spoke to him in a while. Yeah, I haven't talked to Thomas much. I don't think he's with Hampton Sydney anymore. I think he
Okay.
maybe moved to another police department. Yeah, I think the last I've talked to his wife, and his kids are all like your age now. It's crazy. It just makes you feel old, man.
Yeah.
Seeing that, dude. I think his son might be having a baby.
Okay.
Maybe. I just don't get on social media enough to check.
Right.
But I know they had some sort of party or baby shower the other day because as I opened up my notifications, I saw like an image for a second of him.
Okay.
He was smiling when I saw him, so
That's good.
yeah, I miss him. He's funny, man. Like I miss him and Noel trash talk. You know?
Oh yeah, they were a trip.
Yeah, dude. Man, I used to have the best ride-alongs with Noel. Just
I
stuff
rode with them one time.
You did?
On
Nice.
accident.
On
Yeah.
accident?
Yeah. I was leaving a party, walking back to Steve's. This was in high school, and the cop car goes by, and then they stop and back up. And they're like, "Kyler?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." And he was like, "Hey, it's Thomas. You need a ride?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And I think that happened twice. And he was like, "I can't keep doing this for you, man."
That's funny. Thomas is a good guy, man.
Oh, yeah.
Really
Really
good
good
guy.
people.
I miss those guys a lot. I think that's one of my biggest things that I miss from Farmville was those guys.
Oh yeah, we had a really awesome group.
We did. We had a big family, and a lot of them, they still feel that way. And
Yeah.
a lot of them said that the experience they got training with us was so good they just can't go anywhere else. It doesn't feel the same.
Right.
And I feel bad for that because, like, you know, they've got a really good guy there in Farmville, Jason French. You remember Jason? Okay, so his daughter was training jiu-jitsu. He used to come in all the time flexing his big muscles.
Oh, okay. I think I remember him.
Yeah, he opened up a school, and it's in the same shopping center of my first gym, the one with the garage door.
Okay.
It's
yeah.
it's just the building next door.
Okay.
Apparently, yeah. And yeah, he's got a decent place to train, man. And I've been trying to push people to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
give him
awesome.
something. But yeah, I do miss those guys, man. There's so many stories I can't say on camera with their ride-alongs. Man.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember one day I was with Noel and he was chasing down someone, and I think they were in a Chrysler, and like he was balling it down the road, and I'm riding with him, and I'm just hanging on, you know.
Yeah.
Noel's driving will make anybody a Christian because the whole time you're riding, you're gonna be like Jesus. But and then like he's going down the road, we're going like 100 miles an hour, and he starts twitching. And I'm like, dude, stop that. We're going really fast. He's like, it's my vest. I'm cramping. And like, I'm like freaking out because I'm like, what's going to happen right now, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's so funny. And then he gets out of the car and then he goes to chase somebody or run out of the car and he turns back around to come back to the car and goes, if I need you, you come help me. And it was so funny, dude. But they used to do a lot for the kids. They used to come in and do like a fake crime scene and the
Oh,
kids
cool.
would solve it. And
That's
they
awesome.
would fingerprint and show them all these cool things and always tie it into some sort of message.
Nice.
Yeah, so I
Stuff
wish they
like
weren't-
that sticks with people.
It does, man. And
Yeah.
if you can teach young people in a way that's exciting, it retains. Like it
Right.
sticks, yeah. And that's kind of the goal, man. That's what I like doing here. Is I have the freedom to create those little exciting experiences every once in a while for the kids.
Yeah.
And hopefully those lessons will stay with them. Because I mean, you think about it. Think back to when you were in high school. You probably don't remember hardly anything from like the boring teachers or the
No.
everyday stuff. And
Right.
yeah, it's those moments that matter.
Yeah. Just like when you're talking about jiu-jitsu. Like
Yep.
something 5 seconds been stuck with me for 10 years now.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's an amazing feeling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you get when I'm teaching the young people here, you get hooked on that too. Like just one or two if they get it. So motivating
Yeah.
to see them get it. Yeah. So going back, so after, where's the last place before Mexico that you were at?
Hawaii right before the end of my deployment. I think we got back late November 2019.
Gotcha.
I had Christmas leave in December, and then I think maybe a month or two later we went straight to the border. So it was
Man.
a pretty quick turnaround, which isn't common usually for the Marine Corps. I think they're trying to push for like 18-month workups before your next deployment. But this was something new and temporary, so it was just kind of like a real quick turnaround, like, hey, we need to fill in for these next 3 months or so.
Gotcha. Tell me about the border. Tell me about what it was like and like when you first got there.
Yeah, so we got to the border. We did left seat, right seat with the unit that we were rotating with. I think it was about a week or two, just kind of getting the hang of things, figuring out the routes, because you had 2 people for each section that we stood post at. So me and the other guy would drive the Border Patrol vehicles up there, and just kind of got the hang of things. The post I was at, I don't remember what it was called, but it was absolutely gorgeous. We were probably about 1,000 feet up in the mountain, had to do this big windy road. And we sat in like a modified F-450, had an aircraft pod on it with thermals, a radar, all kinds of cool gadgets, 2 monitors, and we would just take rotations looking through that. So pretty much did that every day for about 3 months. I think we would get maybe 1 day off a week. The rotation was kind of wonky. Sometimes we didn't have enough guys. So just kind of did that back and forth. And this was right after, I think we went there about a week after I had just completed the NDoc for a sniper platoon. So I would get off work and go straight to classes and PT. So I didn't have any free time the whole time I was down there. But grateful for it. It was really cool. Learned a lot of good stuff. I was kind of happy to not have free time because it was just studying and focusing on everything. So we kind of got a little bit of a jump start on how sniper platoon is ran and everything that we needed to learn. But the border was cool. I think I actually broke a record because we couldn't apprehend them. We couldn't touch anyone that came across the border. We're just there for observation. So I think I assisted with like 63 or 67 apprehensions during the time that I was down there and got offered a job.
Wow.
So that was a really awesome experience. Kind of a highlight. I had like 2 or 3 generals come and give me a little challenge coin and stuff. So buddies used to make fun of me and say, "Oh, no, the general's coming to see Hardy." So that was funny.
Hardy. Oh, man. So you got any interesting stories from there that you can share?
Just kind of the highlights of being able to do that. I've always been really passionate about everything that I do. So I had a notebook and did a little range sketch of every mountain and finger and draw and valley that we were looking over and had all the names written down for the code words that the Border Patrol used. And I also took the time when I was off work to learn the 10 code that Border Patrol uses.
Wow.
So they definitely got a kick out of it when I was just yelling up 10 codes and, hey, they're in this section, moving this way and all that and the other. So it was definitely a really, really cool experience. Nothing really funny that I can remember. Oh, actually, I got one. My buddy in Sniper Platoon left his radio on his hood. And when they pulled off, that flew off and went to the bushes. And in Sniper Platoon, target indicators is huge. So he had to carry around like a 90-pound kettlebell for 2 weeks.
Oh, man.
He had it tied to his belt with 550 and just had to carry that around with him as his new buddy, just so he would remember everything from now on. So.
Oh, man, that's too good. Well, that's important. So.
Oh, yeah.
Pain's a good teacher.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I tell these kids when they ask me why we do PT, and I say that because the pain of changing needs to be less than the pain of staying the same, and that'll make you change.
Definitely.
Yeah. Out of everything up until that point where we're talking about with the border and all, what do you think was your biggest transformation time?
Probably because becoming a designated marksman. I did that while I was still in my infantry company, and I had a really good sergeant at the time. I haven't talked to him in a long time. He went to a different unit. I think he's in Hawaii or something. His wife's from there, so he transferred. But he gave me my own team. I was a boot lance corporal, hadn't done a deployment, so I hadn't really earned my seniority quite yet. But I was very fortunate to have my own team, so I was doing the precision marksman stuff and I had 2 guys with me. So that was huge to be able to give briefs and, just be kind of a leader and kind of get a feel for everything. And then whenever we did anything within the platoon, I had to brief my part of what I'm going to provide as a precision marksman and, just notionally in training, but how am I going to protect my team and stuff. So it really opened my eyes to, how far you can go if you really care about your job. There were other guys who didn't do anything for their whole 4 years, and here I am, haven't even done a deployment yet. I'm still a boot, and I'm getting all these opportunities just because I'm taking the time to read books when I'm off work. I made PowerPoints. I made an entire class for my company. So I was pretty much the subject matter expert because this was also right when they brought back the idea of designated marksman because they took it away, I think, probably during Afghanistan or a little bit after. So that had kind of fallen away, and they brought it back and fell in love with it, especially wanting to be in a sniper platoon.
No, that's actually really good, man. Like I tell these cadets all the time that, at least for them too, the ladder to success is a little shorter because not as many people these days are willing to go the extra mile.
Right.
So you're fighting less people up the ladder, I guess you could say. But that's really good because you took the time to master your craft. Mm-hmm. And not only did you do that, but you also created a curriculum to train others, which instills those fundamentals in you even better. Right. So that's really impressive, man, that you did that.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. And like you're saying, it kind of shortens things. My life became so much better. The Marine Corps is, pretty tough. And you're not treated great, especially when you haven't earned your spot, which I'm grateful for. It makes you want to earn everything that you get. You're not just handed a position and praised, every single time something happens, like you pay, your buddies pay, everyone's getting PT'd. So just me taking the time to read a couple books every day once we got some free time and to make this stuff. Not only did I learn more and have a better life, but it helped me learn so much more by being an instructor, because you're having to reteach everything over and over and over again, and that really, really helped me out in the long run. They had just brought it back, and my Scout Sniper platoon for my battalion ran the training course because they're all about precision and they know everything about long guns and whatnot. So we used the Mark 38, which is it's M27 infantry automatic rifle, and all they did was throw a Leopold scope on it and a suppressor. So, because you have single fire and full auto capabilities with it, but we just used it to single fire and kind of turned it into a precision weapon. They're pretty accurate. So Sniper Platoon ran that. I think it was about a 2-week course. A lot of classroom time, a little bit of PT here and there, not too much. And then the final course of the last week was all shooting, which is a really, really awesome experience. Learned wind calls and different shooting positions and how to move your body and what to relax and what to kind of lean into it a little bit. So learned a lot of great skills. And that was when, I always wanted to be a sniper, even going into reconnaissance training. So that just like really flipped a switch for me, because before that it was all movies, like watching American Sniper and all this cool stuff, and then actually doing it, I was like, oh, this is incredible. So that was really cool, and that kind of changed. Yeah, it was incredible. So that kind of changed my whole experience for the rest of my time in the infantry companies, which was about 2 years and some change. So yeah,
that's pretty neat. I would think that I've only done a little bit of range shooting,
Mm-hmm.
not much, but I do know that it felt that moment right at the trigger pull is like, it's so relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
If you just chill and just breathe and just let it go, and it's a really cool moment. And I think that shooting, and to some extent like golf even, teaches you that small adjustments over time give you big gains.
Right. Yeah, the first quote that comes to mind with shooting, as far as scopes, using the magnification, it doesn't enhance your shooting ability, it just enhances your mistakes. So I kind of translate that into life and everything, just kind of like taking a step back, relaxing, getting your breathing down. And it's kind of a science with everything. You should have everything dialed in to the point to where now you're just kind of focusing on your heartbeat, because everything else is set. And, depending on what position you're in, that could be a little bit more or less, especially doing some of the like one-shot drills. They'll make you do like 20 burpees and sprint here back and forth, and then you got a time limit and a target at an unknown distance.
Oof.
So you get up there and you're trying to like estimate it and use some like your range formulas and stuff and get your breathing down. And that definitely taught me a lot too. I waited until the very last second. They did a countdown from 60 seconds, and they did 3, 2, 1, and I fired when you got to 1 because I just wanted to get my breathing down. So it's crazy how everything, even like jiu-jitsu and all of that, kind of translates together, everything you learn in life.
Yeah, staying calm in the chaos, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's a tough skill to master for some people.
Yeah.
Seems like you caught it early, though. I'm not going to lie. You were the calmest kid, man. When you were on the mats, like, you were always just calm, relaxed. I know we said this at lunch, but there were a few times where I saw a few people kind of test you a little bit, and you just smiled. Like, you just smiled, and you went at it. And, I used to laugh when we were – most people that don't know jiu-jitsu won't know what I'm saying, but passing the guard.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to joke around all the time and say all Kyler had to do was just push my knee down. And he just passed my guard in a heartbeat. Yeah, you were pretty quick on your feet for a lanky kid.
I try to be.
Yeah, you were. It's crazy seeing you with the beard now, too, because I was just telling the comment, I was like, I've never seen him with facial hair until he came back. So, yeah, it was pretty different.
Definitely caught all the views of the kids coming in.
Yeah. Their questions are hilarious, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I enjoyed the little crowd that formed outside the door when you were in there. It's too funny,
cool.
man. Like, they saw your tats in the beard, and they're, like, asking some crazy questions. Your range shooting training, what do you think was the most challenging thing to overcome?
Other than just being calm and relaxed, actually, no, I'd probably take that. Because, wind calls are the hardest thing to do. Once you get your range dialed in, you put your dope in, it's going to go where you want. It's just your wind call left and right. So just being calm and not getting frustrated. I can't say how many guys were really amazing shots. They'd miss one, and you hear like big huff and puff, and then they miss the next shot. So, it's downrange. It's done with. You can't take that bullet back. So you just got to take that deep breath, relax, and make the next one count. So, yeah, I feel like we just keep coming back to staying calm and relaxed. It goes so far in life and everything. But just being able to really hone that skill and relax and kind of like no matter what happens, like it's said and done, all you can do is change what's next.
It's funny how you can see their behavior and know they're going to miss the next one too.
Yeah.
Right? I tell the guys here all the time, it's you're worth more than your last mistake. And
That's spot on.
Yeah, but it is, and if you beat yourself up over it, you're going to just ruin future opportunities.
Right.
At least, well, the shooting's a little different. It's a little, target shooting is a little low consequence.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to tell people all the time that, you can't convict an innocent man. You can't stay guilty about the things you didn't know before you know.
Right.
And so, like, if you miss your target, you can't beat yourself up about it, and you definitely can't blame the wind.
Right.
That's going to be there regardless.
Yep.
So I guess it's more about sucking it up and trying to adjust versus doing the same thing again.
Yeah.
Expecting a different result.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think the one time during that course that stood out, there was a Lance Corporal, but he was a senior. So when I got to the fleet, they said same rank, different rate. So there was other guys that were Lance Corporals too, but they were seniors. They'd done a deployment. They'd earned their seniority. And there was a senior there, and every time he missed a shot, huff and puff and start cursing. And finally they just took him out and started jacking him up. He was doing burpees and push-ups and all kinds of stuff and had him sweating. So it was funny to see someone that was senior to me, struggling and have to go through that.
Yeah, I bet ego played a lot in that too, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these guys, they did a deployment to like Okinawa where nothing happened, and they had liberty, and they went snorkeling and maybe did a little bit of training. And they come back and act like they're war heroes. So
Yeah.
it definitely changed my perspective when I started moving up the ranks and became a leader. I was like, that's something I never want to be, never want to do anything close to that.
Well, that's one of the benefits of sometimes there's a benefit to having not so stellar leadership around you, is that you have a model of what not to be.
Right.
And instead of you having to go through that, you can just see what someone else went through and kind of learn from that and say, I don't want to be that at all.
But it's all your perspective. I had buddies who were in the same platoon as me, went through the same leadership, and kind of had a bad taste in their mouth. And instead of changing it, they were like, it's my turn. I'm in charge now. I want to get back for everything that happened to me.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, guys who didn't perform well, weren't good at their job, never helped out, weren't a team player. And then the second they get back from deployment, all big and tall, hard as nails, and screaming and cussing and yelling and making kids do all this kind of stuff. And, it's just really sad to see when they could have been the change. It's their time to do that, and they didn't step up to the plate.
Yeah, I guess they hung on to that bone for too long, and then they wanted to, like you said, give it back.
Right.
Yeah, I don't find fulfillment in that.
No.
I don't know. I just don't get it. I mean, I'm not perfect, and I know I probably had situations where I maybe been a little too hard on someone that I should have. But at the same time, you have to, especially teaching youngsters. Yeah. When you teach kids, you have to constantly have the end result in mind.
Yep.
And I think the good leaders do that. They take a breath, and they say, what's the next best thing, or what course of action right now is going to give me the result that I want. And I got to say, actually working here, man, like the Commandant Redding and President Peterson, that's one thing I enjoy about my conversations with them. It's because they'll just take a breath. All right, what's the next best thing? Yep. And having that is refreshing. And it takes a lot of stress off of you when you have a leader that does that. You know what I mean? Like versus, the beatings will continue until morale improves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, you build a lot of rapport that way. I don't want to be cocky or anything, but I never yelled at any of my guys. If they had to go do something like a working party, I was there with them as a sergeant. If they had to go pick stuff up, I was out there picking it up with them. And people appreciate you for that. And they start caring about you. And it's like what we were saying, they're not just going to listen to you when you're there because they fear you and you walk away and they go and do the same thing that they were doing. Yep. They respect you enough to care about what you said, and they don't want to disappoint you. And they respect you for doing the same thing that they're doing. So no matter how hard it is, it's like, hey, he's got a smile on his face. He's got a little pep in his step. He's doing the work. He didn't complain. And they want to embody that. Yeah,
you're leading from the front.
Exactly.
The balance between the fact that management most of the time is getting things done to the effects of others. Yep. Like, learning how to train a team of leaders to get the things done, but at the same time, making sure that you're still human. Yep. Your door's still open, so to speak. And getting down in the weeds every once in a while is very important, like you said.
Most definitely.
With leadership, even with cadet leadership, is that they think that there's a microscope or magnifying glass on them, so to speak, at all times. Yeah. And they think they can't make a mistake. Because kids are like piranhas. They're going to latch on to whatever mistake you make, right? Yeah. So I think that they feel like they have to be perfect all the time, or if they're not, they just have to fake it till they make it. And it creates sort of like a
kind of a
distance.
boundary.
Yeah, exactly. A distance, a boundary between you and your people that you're supposed to lead.
Right.
And I think that them seeing you as human is incredibly important.
Oh yeah, they can.
Because you have to be relatable.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an important thing. So is there anything that shocked you? I'm going to step back for a minute about the border real quick. Is there anything that shocked you about the border? Like when you went down there, is there anything like that really like surprised you?
I mean, I think we had discussed, that was the point when the news really started picking up and whatnot. Like, women and children trying to get across or trying to escape this and that. And all I saw were males. I think the 3 months that I was down there, at least at my station, we saw maybe one female with her kid. And that was it. It was like groups of like 3 to, I think the most was probably like 8 or 10 guys, sometimes wearing black hoodies, and you hear a call over the radio that, hey, they're trying to break in somebody's house or they just came through their yard. So, yeah, it's definitely not, what was being painted, but that and people from different countries, not Mexico.
So after that, you went through and, let's see, so that was Hawaii, right? Let's see, you went to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
You came back, and then what happened after that?
I had Christmas leave, then I did the NDOC for Scout Sniper Platoon. I forget how long mine was, maybe 3 weeks. We were kind of might have been 2. We were on kind of a short timeline considering we were getting ready to leave for the border. So they really wanted to just get that done, do all the interviews and whatnot after all the training that we had to do and all the tests that we did. And then after that, once we found out we made it in Sniper Platoon, swapped companies, went over to them, and then we left for the border. So it was kind of a quick turnaround with that. Right after I got out the Marine Corps, I think it was less than a week after I got out, I started going to this Executive Protection Academy. It was 2 months long. Graduated top of my class, was offered a job by the same company that owns the academy. Worked for them for about 8 months and just got tired of being a personal assistant. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. The pay was incredible, but if you're not happy somewhere, the money doesn't matter.
Exactly, yeah.
So, I mean, I was 23 and 23, turning 24, making over 6 figures.
So, executive protection, man.
The one story I can think of is he wanted to ride with his family, so I drove one of his supercars behind his normal-looking plain Tesla, and we pulled up to this show that he wanted to go to. And instead of everyone opening up his doors, all the valet ran to me and were helping me out and asking if I needed anything and just taking care of me. So that was a pretty funny experience, having the tables turn.
Yeah.
So
it had to be very interesting to be in that kind of field with people who are, rich and famous, and
oh yeah,
it's a different world, I think, that they live in. Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of hard to explain because just like that whole community, like Beverly Hills, Pacific Palisades, all that stuff. Because I don't know if you've been to LA, but they're very particular about how they record that stuff on TV. They'll like have it angled up a little bit. You don't see all the homeless people and the drugs and whatnot. It's like super run down. Then you get to Beverly Hills and everything, and it's beautiful. The lawns are manicured. It's these multi-million-dollar homes. And they just kind of detach themselves. I think when they drive around or get chauffeured around, they don't really like understand like what's really going on in the city. They just kind of tune it out and just go do their thing, and then they go back to their multi-million-dollar mansions and stuff. So they're just not really in touch with anything. It's just pretty wild to see.
It's the part that, like, it wouldn't bother me so much if it wasn't for the fact that we live in a world now where everyone, if you're popular, can have influence.
Right.
And for people to have influence over any sort of change but don't have a hand in the day-to-day, so to speak, or don't have a hand in the process, or don't even have any skin in the game, really, to kind of influence others, it's concerning to me sometimes because, you have people that just, it's a daily challenge to try to explain to young people that heroes are not what you see on television.
Right.
Heroes are not these celebrities, these influencers, all these people. Heroes are like the people who do the right thing every day, regardless. And that's what a hero is. And successful people, most of the time, are the ones that just make the right decisions on a consistent basis. And to teach them that foundationally first versus them thinking that success is an event and they're going to wake up one day and be that guy that you're a bodyguard for is a very challenging thing.
Yeah.
And it's a little frustrating to see some people who work so hard to get where they are become so detached.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just very disheartening.
Yeah, I
times.
mean, it's really hard to comprehend. Like I was saying, it's just it's hard to put into words. Whole nother world, and I just don't see many of them being able to ever relate to anything. And like you're saying, their whole perspective is warped.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making comments on all these topics and all these things, and they're not living any of it. They're just kind of in their own little bubble.
We have this self-justification within us, which will find whatever we need to justify anything.
Right.
You know, and there's a lot of that going around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty hard. What's the most opulent, luxurious, or wasteful thing that you've ever seen over there when you were over there doing executive protection?
Other than like supercars and stuff, I mean, I saw some that were worth millions of dollars that aren't really driven or anything, which is kind of crazy. Some of these vehicles are worth more than like the town I grew up in. It's just pretty crazy to see. Probably a fish tank. I saw some super massive fish tank with like baby blacktip reef sharks in it.
Jeez.
And that was just super odd to me. Apart from like really small things like super expensive sunglasses and stuff that are worth like thousands of dollars. I guess I just don't really care for things like that. I like getting my t-shirts from Walmart and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just weird seeing materialistic things like that. Someone spending so much money on that, or like a DJ for a couple hours, like $30-some thousand. And
Yeah, that's pretty wild, right?
yeah.
I guess a lot of people too, like, I know you're probably working for some people who are in business and they wanted to really match the level of opulence that the people who they were trying to woo
Right.
were going. Yeah, but that's a little crazy. Like, I've never been that person either. Like, I like nice clothes and like, I like to the point where I like them because they last.
Right.
You know, you buy a
Yeah.
cheap suit. Cheap suit's not gonna last you a long time, right?
Right.
But like, yeah, that level. I've never been a sunglass guy. Like, the most I've ever paid for a watch was probably like $700, and that was like ever.
Yeah.
And
A little
I don't
treat
even
for
like
yourself.
buying new phones, man. Like,
Yeah.
I've still got the same Galaxy I've had forever. I just no.
I got this one used off eBay.
There you go. Yeah, I'm just kind of like that, man. Like, I mean, there's some things you like nice. Like, I'm sure you wouldn't mind paying for the right rifle.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I think we were talking. I spent pretty much every dime I made last year on cool stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
firearms and all that. That's my jam. That's why I'll buy like a T-shirt from Walmart and then spend a couple $1,000s on something stupid.
It's all right, man. Priorities, right?
Right. Yep. So one of my best friends, I met him at the academy. He left for Ukraine in April. I couldn't afford it. You had to pay for your own gear, your own flight, your own uniforms and clothing and whatnot, your own train ticket. Everything was self-funded. So he went over there late April, and I had just started working. I was like, hey, man, I'm sorry. Like, I know we were supposed to go together, but like, I really can't afford it. I was like, I won't have any income. I still have a couple bills and stuff. I was like, I'm going to end up in debt if I leave right now. So I started doing my own thing. He left, didn't hear from him for a while. And then I want to say around November, I was just getting really tired of being executive protection agent. It was pretty much personal, personal assistant.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got really, really old, definitely an ego check. Wanted to do security and like be that guy and be cool and stuff, and that wasn't the case whatsoever. So I messaged him, and he was actually in the States visiting for Thanksgiving, and he was like, hey man, we need somebody with a sniper background, like we could really use you. And I was like, if you can get me in, I was like, I'll quit right now. So I think that night I put in my 2-week notice, started prepping, buying gear, and then I left January 10th.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
I flew to Switzerland, and then my final flight was in Poland to Warsaw, and then I took a train from Warsaw to Kiev.
Man. So when you first got there, can you explain like your first, couple days and how things went?
It was definitely a culture shock. I should have prepped better. I didn't know any Ukrainian whatsoever, and I was still trying to figure out my international phone, so I couldn't really use like Google Translate very much. So I ended up paying like way too much money for a taxi just because they asked for it, and I was like, I don't even know what the exchange rate is. I just took some money out of this ATM.
Oh, they got you.
Yeah. So, and then I went to my apartment, was having issues with my banking, my credit cards and stuff. They wanted cash. So I ended up calling my buddy once I got my phone working, getting to an ATM, and had to walk like a mile with this poor lady through the snow and stuff in town to go get money. Came back and then finally settled in. So I think I spent probably about 2-3 weeks just in my apartment, which I'm grateful for. I got on a really good diet, ate the same thing every single day. My sleep schedule was wonky, which actually worked out. So I was working out in my apartment, wouldn't even leave. And I think I worked out at like 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. every single day, just thrashing body weight workouts and eating super clean, just trying to get in shape from sitting at an office for executive protection for like 8 months.
Yeah, going through it right now, man. We've had that talk though.
Oh yeah.
There's no cardio like fight cardio.
Oh no.
Like
not at all.
You could be the most. Commandant and I had this conversation. You could be the most in shape guy in the world. And there's a funny meme I saw a couple days ago. It was a guy scared, sweating. It was like when you see a 300-pound guy come into open mat jiu-jitsu, and then he's sweating the first picture. The second picture, he's smiling because it's like when you see him put on a white belt.
That's awesome.
But yeah, you could be in ridiculous shape and still like get just smashed on the mat, and people don't understand that. It's a different world.
Right. I mean, you can do weightlifting and cardio and running and swimming, and it's still not the same.
You know what I think too is one of the best things about like jiu-jitsu and swimming too, by the way, is that you're working on your weaknesses nonstop.
Right.
Because people are going to attack your weak points.
Exactly.
And swimming is kind of like that because it's a full body exercise. But jiu-jitsu specifically, you're constantly getting your weak points attacked. And unlike a striking art, you can only get hit in the face so much.
Yep.
Right. But in jiu-jitsu, you're able to lose for hours. You're able to get demolished and not have any long-lasting physical consequences,
right,
other than your ego, which is a good thing. So after you got situated in Ukraine, what was the experience like?
That's a great question. So I thought the tempo was going to be really fast-paced. I was with 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines out in Camp Pendleton for my whole career, and we had a really, really fast tempo. We did our workup, but it was just training nonstop, deployed, came back, trained, sniper and doc, deployment, we actually left the border early to go to Bridgeport in the Yosemite Mountains to train. Then we went to Yuma, then we deployed again.
Wow.
So just kind of nonstop for most of my career. So I kind of prepped myself with that mentality. I wanted to think it was going to be the worst thing ever. That way, if it was anything less, I appreciated it. So we finally started pushing out on missions, and myself and another sniper were paired up, and we went down to Zaporizhia together. The team stayed back. They had some other stuff they had to work on and do. So him and I pushed down just as a sniper pair and linked up with some guys that used to be in the French Foreign Legion. One sniper, another guy that he was training to be his spotter, and then a machine gunner. So it was just us 5, and we pushed out on probably 2 missions before the rest of my team came down, and we started doing bigger attacks and whatnot. So it was probably a month and a half, 2 months before I actually got to start doing stuff.
Wow. That's at least you tried to work on yourself in the off time.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a little bit more motivated. I was like, I thought I was prepared in the Marine Corps. I always tried to work on that. But I was like, this time, like, I actually know. There wasn't, like, the curiosity of, like, hey, what's going to happen this deployment? Where are we going? Is something going to pop off? Because my first deployment, we went by Iran during all that got heated.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other ships are what disrupted the signal to that drone and shot it down.
Oh, yeah.
So that was my deployment. So this time it was like, nope, like, I'm in Ukraine. Like, there's active war. Like, we're going. So definitely kept me motivated to not get complacent, try to work on things. So.
Yeah, which is important. It takes a lot of self-discipline to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, got to stay on your toes.
Yeah, well, the fear of death definitely helped push that.
I was going to say, speaking of, like, you had to, am I understanding this, you had to get your own gear?
Yep, everything was self-funded. I had to pay for my own helmet, my own headset, my own connector for the radios that the team was using. Luckily, I had a buddy already in the team, so I was able to get everything I needed prior, because it's kind of tricky out there. If you don't have the right gear and stuff, it's hard to get shipping and stuff. Just with like how the mail is, some areas you're not getting mail. So, my plate carrier, my plates, magazine, pouches, my own belt, helmet, my own ruck, all my own cold weather gear, tarps, you name it. So pretty much went all out and spent, I think, my entire savings on that and my flight.
Wow.
So,
Man, tell me a crazy story from over there, if you got one.
oh yeah.
Tell me a couple of them. Just go on, let it loose.
So we were talking about divine intervention earlier. So this one mission was, I was already a Christian, but it really solidified it. So our team pushed in first, my sniper team. We were going to go in, set up, and wait for the rest of the unit to get there to do their attack. So we wanted to be already set in as close as we could get. That way when they came in, we had overwatch of everybody. So we drove through, kind of quick, fast, and in a hurry, because there's some spots where the Russians can maybe see you. So we parked our truck, camouflaged it, get out. And within 2 minutes, I mean, we're behind Ukrainian lines. We're not even past Ukrainian lines yet to get to our position. We had a drone overhead. And you never know whose drone is whose. There's so much chaos and confusion, and no one's communicating with anybody. You could have a unit a couple hundred meters away, and they're like, how many guys are over there? What unit are they with? Oh, we don't know. So there's a whole lot of that going on. So we had a drone overhead, and luckily it didn't have any of the bombs that they drop or the little grenades and stuff. So we're sitting there, and we're like, hey, like, this thing's right overhead. We should move. So we pick up, and about 2 minutes later, they called in mortars right where we just were. So that was the first little wake-up call. And then we move in, get to our position, and we didn't have radios up for probably an hour. And we're like, hey, the attack was supposed to happen 30 minutes ago. Like, what's going on? They were also supposed to start artillery before friendlies got there, just to kind of get the Russians' heads down before they could move in. That never happened either. So we're like, hey, is the attack off? Like, we're pretty far out here. Like, we've had a drone overhead back and forth. We're trying to move through this brush and stuff. Like, what are we going to do? So luckily, we finally hear the vehicles pulling up. We're sitting in position, and they shoot the MIG-clicks, which is pretty much I don't know how long it is, probably at least 100 feet of rope with, like, these grenades attached to it.
Oh, yeah.
So it blows up the minefields. It is so much bigger than I expected on that explosion. We saw them shoot, and then I was like, oh, what's going on? And then it just exploded. But we were just far enough to where there was a delay from the explosion and when you felt the impact and heard it. So that was wild.
Man.
They shot 2 of them. And this was my first, I mean, I had heard artillery overhead, but this was my first time, like, being in it, like, being engaged in something. So we sat there forever, and the whole team came in, and it was probably about 80 Ukrainians and foreign fighters against a platoon of Russians. The problem was that there was a company trench within 800 meters behind that, and it had open, could see everything the whole way. So everyone started getting pinned down and lit up, and we thought we were safe because we were farther out, but a tank actually started shooting at us on accident. They were trying to hit the other guys, was shooting over the hill, and it was hitting in front of us and skipping overhead.
Wow.
So you could hear the whistles going by. And the other sniper, you know, he was doing a good job keeping his head on the gun. He's like, what's that noise? And I was like, oh, I think we're getting shot at by artillery. I was like, I can't really tell. It's kind of weird. It's almost like direct fire, not up high or a high angle. So it kept walking it in, getting closer and closer. And he's like, hey, that's our call. We need to bounce. Like, they're starting to get closer to us and talk it on. So it's probably 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half after we left, they called artillery fire for effect on that position where we just were. 6 shells. And turns out we thought it was artillery. It was a tank shooting at us originally. So we left because of a tank and then got shot at by artillery. They're not even communicating with each other. So that was just divine intervention, accidentally getting shot at. Hey, we need to leave. And then they called in artillery. Here's where it gets crazy. If we had left sooner, they just called in artillery after that on the intersection that we were moving towards to get back to our vehicle. So if we had left sooner, we would have got hit by that. If we left later, we would have got hit by the other one.
Wow. That's
So,
crazy, isn't it?
So that
oh
was
my
wild.
gosh. That's, oof. Yeah.
So just left and right, just
Holy
divine
cow,
intervention. So we ended up leaving. We didn't have comms with anybody. Couldn't see anybody. They just happened to be like on the other side of this tree line, so we couldn't engage anyone. And then once we started getting shot at, we left. It wasn't worth us staying there. We couldn't do any work. So we left. Actually went out to eat at a restaurant. And then I think it was about 2 a.m. we got a phone call saying, hey, we need 2 snipers. We need you guys to come back. The things didn't go too hot The team's stuck in one of the trenches. They can't leave. We want to do a second attack because the first one didn't go well. So kit back up, drive an hour back out, and we start sitting on this brief to get everything going, and kind of a debrief from what was happening before and what was actively going on. And they're just talking in Ukrainian, the generals and the battalion commander and all this stuff is going on. And we're like, hey, it's 2 a.m. Like, we should get a move on it. Like, the Russians are probably going to do a counterattack once the sun comes up, because they had a direct access road straight to that position from the company trench. I'm like, they just smashed us pretty hard by us surprising them. Like, they're probably going to want some payback when the sun comes up because they don't have a whole lot of night vision and thermal capabilities. So, like, 2 hours go by. It's like 4 a.m., and I'm looking around at this Ukrainian team that we were supposed to team up with, and they don't have night vision. So I'm like, when's this attack going on? And they're like, probably 7 a.m. And we were going to have to move myself and my buddy, the two snipers, onto this road in the open.
In the daytime.
Because there were no other
Oh,
positions. Because our plan was nighttime. I was like, hey, we can get on the road, stay low. We'll be able to engage. If anything happens, we'll peel out. And I was like, once we heard daytime, I was like, this is a suicide mission, man.
Yeah, and they're expecting it most likely anyway.
Right. Well, originally they wanted him and I to clear the trenches. And I'm like, we have sniper rifles. We have long guns.
Yeah.
You can't clear a trench with that. So that took a little bit of talking to the battalion commander. And finally, we're like, hey, we can engage better from this distance. We can see everything. We can protect everybody as they're moving through. But, yeah, that was one of only 2 times the whole time I was in Ukraine where I had a really bad feeling. Once I heard it was daytime, I just had a really bad feeling in my gut. And they ended up calling it off. They said, we didn't need you guys. You can go get some rest. So, very blessed for that one.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. So, was it a little jarring to go from the active war zone to like Kiev, where it's just chill? Because I've talked to people who say that it's life as usual constantly. Is just that you don't. If you're in Kiev or any other bigger city, like it doesn't seem like it's wartime.
No, not at all. You would never know there's a war going on if you were in Kiev. We were staying in Zaporizhia. I forget the city that or the small village that we were in, that we were launching these attacks from, but we were actually staying in Zaporizhia, which is like a smaller Kiev. And even there, they did have some missile attacks and stuff, so I guess that's a little bit more true. I think they had a huge missile attack right after we left there, which more divine intervention. You know, every time we went somewhere, we were safe and nothing happened. But yeah, you would never know. Restaurants, bars, activity centers, like you name it, everything is open. There's traffic everywhere. People are walking. There's kids playing. So you would just never know. I'd say more so Kyiv. There's 20, 30 guys in the gym that are in better shape than I am, same age as me, if not younger. And they're just like, sometimes I say thank you, and then they'll just leave and stuff. And it's like, what are you doing here, man?
Yeah,
like, your country's at war.
Yeah.
Inman, since you wanted to ask this as the first question so bad, you can ask.
Thank you, Dixon. Sir, I just wanted to ask you one question. What was your MOS in the Marine Corps?
0311, but I spent the last 2 years and some change in a Scout Sniper platoon.
So I got this amazing question. What brought you to Hargrave? Like anything like specific?
Jeremiah, Mr. Bunker, was my jiu-jitsu instructor a couple of years ago. So we've been friends ever since.
Oh, that's cool.
What's your advice on someone that wants to join the Marine Corps?
I would say just mentally prepare yourself. We were talking about this earlier. It's nothing like the commercials. It's a very different experience. I don't think anything really preps you. You just have to be well-rounded, disciplined, and you have to really care about your job. You know, you get out whatever you put into it. Same with anything in life. So if you want to be respected and well-known and be good at your job, then you have to put in the extra time and effort to do so. And it really pays off in the long run. You get treated better. You pick up rank faster. So there's a lot of perks to caring and doing good at what you do.
Can you tell us one thing that you think is the best thing you learned while serving as a Marine, and one thing you made a mistake and you can learn from that? Like something that we could, like, because I want to join the Marines one day, and it's an honor to be in your presence. I just wanted advice on that.
Yeah, appreciate that. I would say being humble on both sides of that. A lot of people have ego problems, especially once you start picking up rank and whatnot. I had buddies of mine that picked up rank faster than others, and the second they pick up like corporal, where you're an NCO, you just see like they start bossing people around, but not in a good way, not just to get the job done. It's more of like a power trip. So you got to be humble on all sides of it, lead fairly but firmly, but also remember that you're still a human being, like you were the same rank someone else was, and just kind of be understanding and leading by example. So like you were saying, I got out as a sergeant, so if we had to go do something, there are times where I'm just supposed to supervise and delegate and make sure that the job's done properly. But there's other times where you need to be humble and understand that you're in the same boat they are and you're all part of the same team, even if you are higher rank. So then there's a lot of times where you should do the same thing that they're doing. That way they see like, hey, Sergeant Hardison's been in the same boat. He's a higher rank, but here he is doing the same crappy job that we're doing, and he's not complaining about it. He has a smile on his face, and he's working harder than everybody else. So you just kind of have to have a balance with that. But I'd say being humble, that's a huge battle that a lot of guys, kind of fight internally throughout the Marine Corps.
What inspired you to join the Marine Corps? Like, was it like you want to do for your family, personal well-being, or just what drove you to join the Marines?
That's a good question. So in high school, I was, super patriotic. I watched the movie American Sniper probably 85 times before I joined. That was my go-to. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, but I didn't like the Navy. I don't know if y'all have read Chris Kyle's book, but same thing happened with me that happened with him, just kind of backwards. So he went to the Marine Corps. The recruiting office was closed, and he talked to the Navy recruiter and heard about the SEALs and decided to join. So it's kind of the same thing. I went to a Navy recruiter. They were closed that day, and I had spoke to one in the past and didn't like it. And I had my grandfather was in the Marine Corps and talked to me about recon and snipers and all this stuff. So part of it was, being patriotic and me feeling as a man, it's something I should do.
I got one more question. All right. So, do you guys just eat, MREs all day? Or, do you guys get, actual meals?
That's a good question. Situation depends. If you're in the field, you're eating MREs. Depending on what training you're doing, if you're in 29 Palms or Bridgeport, you eat MREs, but they're prepared in much larger portions. So it seems like you're getting real food, but it's really just a bigger MRE. But if you're back at base, I was stationed at Camp Pendleton in California for all 5 years, you can go to a chow hall and eat there and whatnot.
I know there's they scream it out. I'm not sure if it's true that they scream at you, but just the mental part of it or physical part. What was one of the hardest parts for you?
I'd say being away from family. I left for boot camp almost a year after high school. So I lived with my family for all of that, and I never really left home. So that was probably the biggest impact, and I've seen that with my brother, the one that's right below me. I have 3 brothers. He joined the Marine Corps, kind of the same thing. And then my youngest brother, joined the Army Reserves. And it's kind of the same thing across the board, just leaving home, being away from family. They do scream at you. I don't know how things have changed. Seems like things are changing constantly. I saw change even in the 5 years that I was in. So I don't know exactly how things are ran or if it's got dialed down a lot. But, just 5 years ago, they definitely scream at you more than they talk to you. So you just can't take anything personal. Business is business.
What was your favorite part about boot camp?
Boot camp? I know boot camp's definitely a hot topic for people that haven't joined. Once you're in, that's the smallest part of your entire career, but it's a good question. I'd say just the funny stories, because you have to be serious all the time. It definitely changes you. You're kind of robotic afterwards because you can't smile, you can't laugh. You're always in formation. It's way more disciplined than it is here, which, this is a very good baseline to have and start off with. you're way ahead of other schools and high schools and whatnot. But just the funny stories and seeing like drill instructors break character. You know, they'll say something way off the wall and just how like some kids react to it and they start to break character and have to like kind of hide their smile and stuff. So I'd say boot camp's one of the funniest times that you'll ever encounter in your career.
What was the worst experience you've had in the Marine Corps?
That's a tough question. I have quite a few. I'd say one of the worst that come to mind off the back, we were in 29 Palms, and we did a 6-day mission sitting in a rock hide. That's where you just camouflage yourself in the rocks with, you know, burlap tarps and burlap sacks and stuff. And this was a huge event. So it was actually 3 battalions, if I'm not mistaken, 2 battalions versus 1. So you have hundreds and hundreds of Marines and helicopters and vehicles and all this stuff for this huge training exercise. Pretty much like 2 battalions were a foreign entity and 1 battalion was another. And just sitting in that one spot for 6 days, we ran out of water, ran out of food, and myself and my point man. So we spent 6 days at the top of this mountain. Mind you, before that, we had about a 6 to 8 hour ride in the back of a large vehicle. It's called a 7-ton. And then we hiked up one mountain, and the very next day we got picked up and got dropped off at the base of another mountain and had to hike from pretty low sea level all the way up to like 3,000 feet with extremely heavy packs on. So this being our corpsman's first mission, mind you, he was in shape and he was with an infantry unit before this, but then he came to sniper platoon and the hike was just too much. His whole body locked up, and I ended up having to carry his pack the last little bit of the way, but ran out of food, ran out of water, and myself and the point man had to hike all the way down to the base of that mountain after being up there for like 4 days, and then hike all the way back up with extra water and food for everybody. So, you know, being in a sniper platoon is, you're not very rewarded. You're held to a higher standard. Even in garrison, your uniform has to be perfect. You know, you only got, I think when I first joined the platoon, I think we only had like 10 or 12 guys in it out of the entire battalion of, I think, 4 companies with 150 Marines in each company. So you have all these eyes, all this leadership, all these officers looking at sniper platoon as supposedly being the best platoon in the entire battalion. So it's very, very scrutinized. So you have to be in the best shape and have the best uniforms, be the best PT stud, and also just be squared away and understand that you're always under observation. Someone's always watching you. So, yeah, that was a pretty rough mission, though.
I have a question. What advice would you give to someone that has a negative attitude about the Marine Corps?
I think it just comes back to ego. You just have to let go of it. You know, I had kind of a negative attitude at times while I was in, and also when I got out, just due to some injuries and stuff that had happened and how the treatment was. But I went to Ukraine earlier this year for 5 months in a Ukrainian Spetsnaz team. And just seeing how Ukrainians operate and whatnot, you kind of get understanding of why the Marine Corps does things a certain way. So you're just kind of having that perspective of, oh, this is so stupid. Why do we have to clean our rooms? Why do our uniforms have to be perfect? Why do we have to do this and have such attention to detail? Why do we have to be respectful? Why do we have to do this and that? But seeing the big picture of things, it's all to make you better at your job and make you have, you know, like I said, more attention to detail to every minor thing. So you might think it's dumb to have to clean your room and have attention to detail and everything and see like, oh, your uniform's like slightly offset from your belt buckle. But when you get out there and you start realizing that you've been paying attention to all these details for so long, and you get out there and you're looking and you're like, hey, that rock looks a little iffy, and you realize it's another team out there looking for you. So everything has a purpose, everything has a reason. They might not go about it the best way depending on your leadership, but that's where business is business, and you have to let it go and not take it personal. So like I said, ego is like the biggest battle that you're probably ever going to have in your life.
I got a question. All right, so look, this is like hypothetical, all right? Like, if you were ever a POW and, like, they gave you a choice between, like, switching sides, would you ever, like, join their side? Or would you stick with being, like, American Marine?
Of course he has to ask this question.
No, like, an actually serious question.
Hypothetical.
It's a pretty awesome question. would never switch sides. It doesn't pay off in the long run. I don't know if you've seen people who have been taken and whatnot, but they might treat you good in the beginning and you give up all this information, but at the end of the day, you're still their enemy, and they're going to use you as leverage and probably punish you very inhumanely. So I'd say it's better to have a little bit of discipline and patriotism for your country.
What is the recommended or your recommendation for when you're going into boot camp mentally and especially physically? Do you want to be bigger than everybody else, like buff and jacked and able to do everything, or I don't know, stay smaller and get bigger while you're there?
You're definitely not going to get bigger while you're there. You're going to lose weight. You definitely have to have a balance. You know, I knew guys who were 300 pounds and deadlifting over 700 pounds, and they'd fall out of hikes. So you might be this big, strong, tough guy, but you have to be good at your job, and that's all that matters. So at least for me, a lot of my workouts are styled towards being functional. I don't go in a gym and try to lift as much weight as possible. There's guys in there that are smaller than I am that lift more weight than I do. I don't care about the numbers. I care about being good at my job. So it doesn't matter how big or strong you are, as long as you're strong enough to get your job done and to do what you need to do. That's all that really matters. So I'd say just be in as best shape as possible. Be strong. Be good at pull-ups, push-ups, running, crunches, all the typical Marine Corps PT stuff. But just focus on being strong mentally, not having an ego, understanding business is business, not taking anything personal, and understanding that nothing is ever going to be given to you in the Marine Corps. You're going to have to earn everything that you get. So take pride in that and kind of look at it as a challenge. So.
Another question. Well, what would you say like your biggest takeaway from the Marine Corps is?
I thought you were going to ask more. It's okay. I'd say being a good leader, because that translates to absolutely everything in life. Like I was saying earlier, just using those examples, leading by example, still being human, understanding that everyone else is human and has their own problems. So like I was saying, the second I got out that vehicle, you know, my home life is my home life. I don't need to bring those problems to work, especially as a leader. Because if I'm having a bad day and I show up and mistreat all my subordinates under me, they're going to have a horrible day. And I've just done that to them. As a leader, you should be as cool, calm, and collected. I never yelled at anyone the entire time I was in the Marine Corps, ever. Even if someone messed up, like, hey, let me talk to you offline. Hey, what's going on? Like, you usually do really well. It seems like you've been kind of out of it. Like, what's going on? And you want to be relatable enough to where they trust you and respect you, not to where they fear you. Mr. Bunker and I were talking about it earlier. If someone fears you, they're going to behave in front of you. And the second they walk away, they're going to go do whatever they want. But if someone respects you and you ask them to do something, now they don't want to let you down. So now even if you leave, they say, hey, I really don't want to get on his bad side. Like, he's looked out for me. He's been there for me. I got in some trouble last weekend, and he came and picked me up at 2 in the morning on his weekend off. He had to drive back and get me. So it's things like that mean a lot to people. So just understanding that they're human and being there for them. So not having an ego and being a good leader is about the best thing you could possibly do. Even if you're not in a leadership position, by you modeling someone that's a good leader, you're going to be able to help your peers out and help them out and make a better team. And then when you do become a leader, now you're in a position to make their lives better.
What was a big regret or a regret that you've had in the Marine Corps?
Probably just some of the times I failed due to my own actions. So not studying what I should have, or not being prepared, or forgetting something. You know, that doesn't just affect you. You might like, oh, I forgot my extra canteen of water. I'll be okay. You get thirsty, now you're drinking someone else's water. So, I mean, that's just a really small example, but just things like that. And you're a team. You don't have anyone else, especially if you're out on mission somewhere. Everyone else is relying on the person next to them. So if you don't have everything that you need, or you forgot something, or I'm supposed to call this fire mission to call in artillery, and I forget something, like, that's on me, and that's going to affect everyone else, especially if you're in a really important position, like being in a scout sniper platoon. Like, an entire company of like 150 Marines are about to do this attack, and they say, hey, we need artillery, we need an airstrike, and me as the JFO, I forget something. How many lives could that have cost in real life if we were in Iraq or Afghanistan or Russia, China, whatever it is? So just really taking that extra bit of time to be really good at your job and taking pride in that.
I have a question. How has being a leader in the Marine Corps affected your personal growth?
Tremendously. Build your confidence, build your interpersonal skills. Helps you to, like I said, if you do it right and you lose your ego, then you just become a better person overall in your home life and everything else. And by doing so, like I said, if you leave everything at work and you come home, it's going to help your relationship with your family, with your girlfriend, your wife, whatever. So it just translates to everything else. Everything you do in life affects something else. So if you start working out, you're going to be in better shape. It might help you with your job, might help you with something you have to do in life. You know, somebody's injured and you need to help them. You have those skills and that knowledge to do so. So don't think of everything that you do as just, oh, I just have to get my uniform straight for this. You might have an interview one day and you took the time and the discipline to be good at that while you're in the Marine Corps. That's going to translate to when you get out. You're going to notice like, oh, something's offline, something's not where it's supposed to be. So every single little thing you do is going to help you in the future. Besides all of my personal achievements, I think being a good leader. When I got out, they did a going away ceremony, and everyone from my platoon came up and said a little something about me. And there was no better feeling than having all these guys that I had worked with and trained and brought up and are now in these leadership roles. And a lot of them are scout snipers today because I took the time to train them. We get off work. I gave extra time to them, taught them, was patient, kind, understanding, listened to everything that they needed. I had guys come to me for personal problems. So doing that is way more rewarding than just succeeding alone and by yourself and having these achievements. Because at the end of the day, no one cares what you've ever done. You know, I was a Marine. I was in a Scout Sniper Platoon, executive protection for a billionaire, Ukraine, combat experience, a sniper over there. No one cares about that stuff in reality. Like, everyone has their own personal lives. But the impact that you put on the others is something that's going to last forever. So that's something that no one will ever forget if you were there for somebody or taught them something. So that's something that lasts a lifetime rather than just some award or achievement that you earned at some point in time.
You guys thank him for his time.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sergeant Hardison.
Thank you for your service,
It was an honor
too.
to speak with you.
Semper Fi.
How many? You were 5 months. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, 5 months in Ukraine.
Mhm.
Yeah. So getting back, one thing I always like to touch on when it comes to veterans who've spent this much time, out in the field, is how do you replicate that peak experience that you got coming home? Because I've dealt with a lot of in jiu-jitsu training veterans who were trying to find their purpose again,
Right.
and they were trying to find a way to relive that, like I said, that peak experience.
Right.
And it seems to be a huge challenge. So how have you overcome the challenges of reacclimating yourself to civilian life?
I think it's just trying to humble myself. Like right when I got back, I was pushing for Africa. It's super hard. I have a couple contacts over there, some other buddies that are involved with contracting or security. So for the first probably at least 2 months, almost every single day, I was thinking about it, training for it, reaching out to everyone that I could, and nothing was sticking. So I just tried to really humble myself and let go of my ego and what I want to do and just try to take a step back and see where God wants me to be. Because none of it was fulfilling. I mean, it's cool in the moment. And I say that very lightly because my team was fortunate to not have anyone hurt while I was there. Some guys got injured, nothing serious after I left. Some of the few guys that stayed because my team did disband. That's why I came back early. But the good moments of that rush, that adrenaline, like you're like, hey, we're kitted up, round in the chamber, riding these like civilian trucks, feeling like the cool guys, kind of doing our own thing, doing whatever mission and planning we want to do, like within reason. It's pretty hard to replicate that. So I think rather than trying to seek that again, I've just tried to humble myself and not chase something like that. Because my buddy actually put it a good way. He's like, it doesn't matter if you do 20 tours or 2 tours. He's like, it's still going to be the same. You're still going to want to do it more. So I've just tried to change my perspective on that.
Yeah. Having a kid on the way, too, that
Yeah.
changes your perspective quite a bit, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah, trying to be, like I said, humble and less selfish and not chase what I want and realize that someone else's life matters now.
Yeah.
And that I need to help mold them.
You know what? It's going to be good for you, man. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you why too. Is that the feeling like competing in martial arts? Like I did more competing in karate, I think, than I did in jiu-jitsu. I had more fun teaching jiu-jitsu than I had competing.
Yeah.
But like seeing others come up and giving them empowerment is the greatest satisfaction to me. And I think as a dad, you're going to see that. And I can just see you now, like sitting next to the long gun on a blanket with your kid, teaching them how to shoot.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be the best feeling in the world for you. And I can't wait to see it, man. Seeing you come up from a teenager to now is crazy, man. Like, oh, man. Like, you don't know how many people that we train with that are like, that try to keep up with everyone, and people like you and Gracie and all, and how incredibly proud we are of you guys, because, you know, it's not an easy journey to live life the right way.
Right.
It's not an easy journey to devote yourself to bigger purposes. So it's really cool to see you guys grow up and to see the things that you've done and to see the sacrifices that you've made. You know, and no one sees, everyone will see you standing on the mountaintop, but no one cares to see the climb.
Right.
And no one sees the struggles that you go through behind closed doors. No one sees your day to day. And those are the things that I wish more people understood and were able to learn how to push through.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we all have the same struggles. And I tell these cadets too, like, we all have the same 24 hours in a day.
Yep.
And there's no excuses why you can't be what you want to be.
Exactly.
And if you put your mind to it, there's not anything you can limit yourself to. And I think one of the things you touched on earlier was preparation.
Yep.
And I think that you spending that extra time to devote to yourself and to grow yourself, not only did it allow you to be better at your craft, but it also allowed you to see opportunities and for other people to see that as well.
Right.
And there's a thing that's called the reticular activating system. It's in your brain. So like, you understand self-defense, so you understand what a baseline is. If you walk into a room, especially if you walk into your house and you see the furniture's moved, it's off baseline, right?
Right.
Well, the reticular activating system is like if you buy like a new pair of shoes or a new car, you start seeing that car everywhere, right? And it's because if your brain hones in on every single detail, you probably go crazy, right? So it only hones in on things that are specific that your subconscious says is important.
Gotcha.
And the more that you're on a path to personal development, the more in tune you are to seeing opportunities to help you advance and grow. And I think that that's being on a mission is very important, because if you're not improving yourself on a daily basis, so many opportunities slip by.
Right.
And you just miss so much. So it's pretty cool, that whole story about you working on what you worked on and making the PowerPoint presentations and how to teach other people is it puts a huge smile on my face, man, because that's the path to success right there. And the fact that you understood that in order for you to move forward and grow, you had to bring others up with you. And that's a really important thing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you, man. It's really cool, inspiring. So what do you think has been your biggest, as far as leadership goes, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome when you decided or when you fell into that leadership position?
I feel like ego is always something that everyone is battling. At least for me, like definitely something to keep in check. The second you start feeling hot, things go downhill real quick. So always just being humble. Like I was saying, like it doesn't matter what I've done in my life. There's always somebody that's done more. So like, who am I to like boast about it or this, that, and the other? There's somebody down the street that can probably beat me up. So how can I boast about that? It's just being extremely humble and understanding and trying to relate to other people, which I think I did a pretty good job at. Always being understanding. You never know what somebody's struggling with. So if someone like has a really bad day and just kind of goes off, rather than getting heated, like just pull them off to the side. Don't let them get, belittled in front of their peers. It's like, hey man, like what's going on? Like what are you struggling with? So just trying to like really relate to people and be humble and understand that everyone's going through something. And instead of me being mad, like, hey, this guy just went off or this guy doesn't want to listen, like something else is going on. So just having really good like social cues and like understanding that and like interpersonal skills and whatnot. So
sounds like you're trying to get to the root of the problem.
Right.
You're not trying to, like you said, you're not trying to selfishly address a situation.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, man, it's funny, we always fall back to these themes. Like if you go back and watch previous podcasts, we've touched on this like every single podcast.
Really?
But when you resort to anger or lashing out, it's a purely selfish endeavor. And I just had a conversation with someone today who was talking about their kids and how when they see their dad, they spend all their time watching them yell at each other or yell at them, and how they don't want to be there.
Right.
And there's no purpose to that.
No.
And it's the same way in leadership, man. Like, how is someone going to respect you or listen to you when it's purely selfish on your part to go lashing out at them because you're just trying to get it all out, basically, and
Right.
it's not helping them any.
Exactly. Going off of that, there's one quote that I always try to follow. You know, anytime anyone's stressed out, doesn't matter if like car trouble or somebody says something or you had a bad day at work or you got your ego checked. It's like, hey, no one's dead or dying. Everything's okay. And even if someone is dead or dying, like, you can probably do something about it.
Yeah.
In a calm manner to help them. So I usually use that for like my friends and stuff or like daily life. Like, no one's dead or dying. Everything's okay. Like, it's not a big deal. So that's one that's always really stuck with me.
I like that.
That, and then business is business. I had one of my senior lance corporals tell me that someone had forgotten something and we're getting jacked up and it's at work. And he's like, hey, man, business is business. And that's always stuck with me. And that's what we were talking about, like flipping the switch. Something happens at home, it stays at home. You get cussed out, chewed out, whatever. Second I get to work, I'm at work now. Nothing else matters. And now I deal with work. Had a bad day at work, doesn't matter because now I'm home now.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a hard skill for some people to learn. They take their problems to work with them.
Right.
And I remember, I think one of the hardest times where I had to deal with that, and we talked about this at lunch, but was when my wife almost died. Mm-hmm. And I remember she just got out of the hospital, and I had a class to teach. And I remember sitting in the car and just having to turn it off. And you just like you said, you flip that switch, you go in, put a big smile on your face. No one knows, it's okay, but you just learn how to change channels so fast.
Exactly.
And to turn it off when you need to turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a useful thing to have, because the last thing you want when you're leading people is for them to take on your stresses and your problems.
Right.
Because it's none of their business anyway. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. And why put that on someone else?
Yep.
Yeah. And I think perception, like you've touched on this, but perception is huge when it comes to looking at your problems. Because a lot of times our problems seem a lot bigger than they are. Mm-hmm. And I have a kid on campus here, actually, he has to tell me a mantra every day or he doesn't get internet at night. So I need to find him later. But one of the first things that I always make him say back to me is, I'm bigger than my problems. Because he really doesn't have any problems. It's not as bad as he makes it out to be, but he's young. He doesn't have perspective. Yeah. And I think that's one of the hardest things about being young is perspective. You don't have it.
Right.
Like, you don't have anything, no baseline to base off of. And I think that's why problems are as big as they are for young people or people who haven't been through hard times. It's because there's no baseline there. There's no comparison to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, all it takes is 5 seconds sometimes. And I'm sure you've heard stories of people who are, pretty much done with life, and someone asked how they were doing and just had a short conversation, and that was it. And it made them change their entire perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
So instead of judging somebody for, being a troublesome person or being hard-headed or something, like, just take time to get to the root of it, change their life, and then hopefully they'll carry it on to the next one.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully they'll pass that along.
Yeah.
I think that's how we change the world, man. It's it's an uphill battle, but, I think that leadership itself fixes a lot of problems.
Oh, yeah.
If you teach it the right way. If you teach leaders to make more leaders, pretty soon everyone will be a leader, but it takes a lot of work to get there, man.
Well, then it just comes from, like, taking away your ego and being selfless. And then it helps other people take their problems off because you're not putting your problems on them.
Yep.
You're the person they look up to. And then once their problems are off them, now they can, like you said, be a leader and do the same thing for somebody else.
Yeah, man, paying it forward. When you have a situation with another person, or if you see someone going through something, if you don't know their background, it's too easy to judge someone by their actions in a moment without knowing any context.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why, taking the ego away and being selfless, you take that extra second. Rather than getting angry, mad, frustrated, or just impatient with someone, you take that extra second to just evaluate and see what's going on and being able to relate that they're human too.
Yeah. Any Marine Corps martial arts stories?
I got some good ones and one or two bad ones.
Oh, let me have it, dude. Let me have it.
We had one kid that was an absolute troublemaker. He ended up switching units, I think, multiple times, never deployed. I mean, his sheet, he had folders and folders of just negative paperwork. I think he had his own drawer, actually, in, like, the commander's office. And my sergeant at the time was, like, a national championship, like, winner in wrestling. like an absolute beast. And he kicked his tail just over and over and over, and that was awesome to see. I actually fought him one time too on a different range, that same kid. Just always, he grew up in a really good neighborhood, had a great family, but tried to act like he was hard and from Chicago. But luckily there was someone else in the platoon from Chicago, like the rough areas, and called him out on it.
Oh, man.
But yeah, he was trying to make rap videos and uniform and all kinds of stuff, and just putting it all over social media, like putting a bad rep on the Marine Corps and stuff. And yeah, he got his tail kicked. Talking about people inexperienced fighting, I've seen that so many times. It's pretty terrifying that letting someone with no experience just go at it with somebody else.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
This kid, I don't know if he had seen me do it or something, a gator roll, but he didn't have an arm. He just had the dude's head tucked and rolled, and the dude's neck popped. Luckily, he wasn't hurt. I think he just, had a bad kink in his neck for a week. But, I mean, he almost broke that dude's neck. They were wrestling, and the other kid got real pissed off and just tucked and rolled with no arm.
That's why I try to tell people, and their ego will not let them listen to me, is that when I tell guys, like I get them on the mats, or even some teenagers who are really athletic,
right?
I'm like, this is not just to protect you, but to protect other people.
Exactly.
Because if you don't know what you're doing, somebody gets hurt.
Yep.
And it's too easy. There was these two kids in high school that were good friends that I went to high school with, and one of them accidentally killed the other one in a fight.
Oh, wow.
Slammed him on the curb, man. And I use that story a lot in jiu-jitsu to tell them to chill. Like, you guys, if you don't know what you're doing, then just chill. And it's just so crazy how tough the human being is in some ways, and then how fragile we are in other ways.
Right.
Is amazing. I'll tell you a really funny, messed up story. Is I was in my kids' class one day, and one of my kids' dad was worked for the state police, and we were sitting on the bench in front of all the parents, and he was going on and on about how hard people are to kill. He didn't mean it in a bad way, but like, and yeah, and I had another one who was telling me how, like, literally on the bench in front of the parents, scaring them. But he's like, yeah, I had a kid run in front of my squad car with a skateboard, and I hit him, and turns out he tried to run away with my niece, so he thinks I did it on purpose.
Oh, goodness.
And but he was the same thing. He was like telling how hard people are, like. But at the same time, man, people don't understand the realities of a fight and what can actually happen,
right?
And what can do to you. And I think that the more training we have, it makes you more passive and less aggressive, because you understand what could happen. And even if you are skilled, you understand that one mistake or something that you didn't account for, or just anything totally random, could just end your life.
Exactly.
And it creates a really humbling mindset when it comes to that. Like when somebody's in your face, typically your first instinct is to right? But then when you understand what could happen, it's a little different.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't understand how people get into situations and they get themselves into situations when they have kids with them.
Yeah.
That is the most
ego.
Oh my gosh.
It's blinding.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see.
Like at ball games, you ever seen those videos at ball games, like
goodness.
people fighting with their kids next to them?
This is supposed to be like memories and like a leadership experience and teamwork and life skills and stuff, and you got two parents just going at it in the stands with it's like t-ball.
Yeah.
You're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
But yeah, I actually did some jiu-jitsu probably a month ago for the first time, and I don't even know how long.
Nice.
And I went there, and it's a lot of younger guys, and I think I was the second biggest guy there. I'm about 240. There was one kid, absolute monster. I think he was about 320, and held his weight pretty well. And I could tell everyone was very fresh and like new and didn't know a whole lot and were kind of gung-ho. And every time I shook hands, I was like, hey, I'll tap. Like, second you get some, I was like, I'll tap.
Nice.
And, it's just scary. Like, I'm pretty confident in myself and doing things and self-defense and whatnot, but it's not worth it to me. I'd rather be humble and like, hey, man, good job. Like, you got me good.
Well, not just that, too. Like, you are running a balance between not saying that you're hurt. Like, if they go too hard and you have to match it to keep yourself safe.
Right.
And then it escalates out of control.
Right. So you're kind of controlling the tempo. Like,
yeah,
hey,
exactly.
Man, like, I got a few injuries. I'm going to go real easy. I'm kind of sore. Maybe exaggerate a little bit or just tell them straight up. Like, hey, man, like, if you get something, I'll tap. No worries. And just, like, keeping everything real cool and calm. And it seems like a lot of people appreciate that.
Yeah, a lot of them do. A lot of them just like, I know a guy who literally admitted to me that he only does jiu-jitsu because he likes to hurt people.
Wow.
And he wonders why I don't train with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
no.
like that kind of mentality is horrible, man.
Yeah.
And I do this with the cadets. Like I'll act like a freaking kitten, dude. I will just like close my eyes, like cover up, protect, and roll around, you know. And I give him a hard time sometimes. But like even when I'm rolling with like I've guy I'm training with right now, and dude, I mean he's way much larger than me. And dude, if I get tired, I'm like, dude, get off me, you know. It's
Right.
I'm like, give me a second to breathe, you know. And
Exactly.
probably just hide in a corner, just on the inhaler, you know.
Yeah.
But
I go for the fun. Like I said,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't have any, especially jiu-jitsu, you can't have any ego. You're going to quit so fast, like you were talking about earlier.
Yep.
So just being super humble in there for the experience and learning and helping others. You know, letting somebody get something and like, hey, man, lock your arms a little bit or twist this way.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, pry your shoulder up a little bit. And it's just way more fun. I mean, to this day, I remember Gracie kicking my tail. I mean, what did she weigh?
Oh my gosh, that
She's
girl!
teeny.
We weighed her one time, and she was 119, and then she got a little bit of weight on her because she got a little muscle on her after a while.
Yeah, I
But-
remember her starting to. She was looking pretty lean.
Yeah, and she
pretty
got
buff.
she was really small when she first started. I got pictures. My gosh, dude, think about this. She's in her 20s now, and she started at what 13?
I think so.
Jeez, man, she was itty bitty, and Jolene was no taller than this table
I know.
when she started, dude. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she was a female, maybe $120.
With a bunch of guys training.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I was towards the end. I think I don't know what weight I got up to while we were still doing jiu-jitsu.
You were a beast, man. Towards the end there, you were fast and strong, but you didn't hurt anybody. But you
Yeah.
had some. I always used to brag about this, man. You had a lot of control. Like you were more peaceful in the scrambles than most people. And I used to always laugh because the wrestler would come out of you because you'd always neck snap.
Oh, yeah.
That was your go-to, was that neck snap. You know,
I didn't know
that
any
was
better.
great. No, it's okay. But no, I like that because we didn't get it from everyone, so you always want new stuff.
Yeah.
You need something to work on. So
Right.
you came in with something different. It was fun.
Yeah.
Because like, okay, how do I deal with this?
Mhm.
And you make people super aware. I remember you slamming certain people's faces to the floor quite a few times before they caught on.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie, dude. And I like when you were new, how you never sparred in the gi, so you treated the gi sessions just like they were no gi.
Yeah.
And you weren't even grabbing the gi at first. And then when you started catching, you're like, oh, it's like a whole world opened up.
Oh, yeah, gi is wild.
Yeah, I love gi, man.
There's so many chokes.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Yeah, I tell people who don't understand, like, gi is training in the uniform, no gi is training with, like, out the uniform, right?
Mhm.
But, like, there's so many more attacks. It's much more technical, in my opinion.
100%.
And it's harder to escape an opponent
Right.
wearing the gi.
Oh, yeah.
And training with, I love training defensively in the gi because I know that if I can work myself out of a side control, I'll work myself out of a mount from there. Like, I've made a huge accomplishment as a smaller guy.
Right.
It just is much more, it's weird, but like, I guess I'm a masochist, but like fighting my way out from the bottom positions are much more satisfying to me than tapping people out. And I can't explain it. But I guess it came from me being a smaller guy. My instructor used to always tell me, start every fight at the bottom of the mount or something like that. And then you always have an uphill battle and it makes
Yep.
you stronger.
Right.
And that was always the most fun, man. It's just weird. Taking a beating was fun, but yeah.
Yeah.
Still taking beatings, by the way. Still fun.
So I always had a love for firearms, but then once I got out as a civilian, I was like, I can buy firearms now. And it just started this snowball effect and fell in love with them. I have a problem with getting kind of tunnel visioned on certain things that I like.
Sounds familiar. Same
Yeah.
thing.
Because, I mean, there's not a lot of things I care about. You know, like I said, I'll buy T-shirts from Walmart and stuff. But when it comes to firearms, like, that's my jam. I absolutely love it. So I've really been wanting to do that and wanting to be a teacher. Like you're saying, there's no greater joy than teaching someone else, like, the skills that you have and, like, the things that you're passionate about. So that's something that I care about. So I want to do it for a long time. So I finally put in my paperwork probably 2 weeks ago. Don't know really anything about starting a business. So just kind of working through that and figuring things out as I go. But hopefully early next year, get things going and start running some courses.
Nice.
Really trying to target people who don't know, at least initially, people who know nothing about firearms. You know, America has more guns than anyone in the world. Almost everyone has at least one, and you got other people like myself that have multiple. But not a lot of people go shooting, not as many people that own them. So been a little bit of a struggle trying to backtrack and write everything down and build a class for people who know nothing. Because before it was, you know, foreign armies and soldiers and Marines, and it's like, hey, here's your course of fire. Here's the safety rules. This is what you're going to shoot at. Let's rock and roll. And now it's like these people know nothing.
Yeah.
So how do I break every single step down? Teach them the safety rules and considerations and how you should behave, and having the respect for the firearm and understanding it. That way you're not afraid of it, and that's how a lot of things go wrong.
Yeah, you're touching on the right thing, because typically, like, okay, I'll give you an example. So I use this a lot in jiu-jitsu. You jump in a hot tub, what's your only thought at first? It's freaking hot.
Yeah.
You're not thinking of anything else.
Right.
Right? You can probably jump in a hot tub right at that moment. I'll kick you in the back of the head. You won't even see it coming, right?
Right.
So a lot of people, if they get into a situation where they have to use their gun, a lot of people find themselves in legal trouble because they don't have enough experience to think in that moment. It's just the situation,
Yep.
And they don't know how to act the right way. For instance, we were on the mats one day. Actually, I think you were there for this. Noel and I, we had those mat chats. And I think we were talking to Steve, and we were trying to tell him that somebody could walk in your house, grab your TV, and if you stand between them and the door with your gun and you shoot them, you're in trouble. And just one small lapse in judgment could ruin someone's life.
Right.
But them having a proper understanding could keep them from maybe accidentally hurting someone else or themselves. How many people get hurt drawing?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen firearms instructors shoot themselves in the leg, dude.
Yep.
Like, so yeah, I think it's a very important thing. I think that it kind of equates to maybe you have a Lamborghini in your garage and you've had it for 5 years. You have never driven it, and then you're going to take it out on a freeway and go 95 miles an hour.
Exactly.
What's going to happen? Well, I appreciate you, man, doing this. I really
Yeah.
do, taking the time, and I hope that these cadets around here can really benefit from seeing you and your experiences and your leadership capabilities and any nuggets of information you can give them.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot of fun, man.
I'm an open book. Like I said, I've been working on my ego for years, so any question I'm open for.
Searching for the answers that we have yet to find. Where did we come from? What are we here for? And where do we go when we die? But I know in the I want you by my side. I know, and I can't go on without your hand in mine. Desperate interaction. Someone turn the lights off. Guess you gotta free yourself from ongoing distractions. Underneath the TV lights, I know that in the end, I want you by my side. I know that I can't go on without your hand in mine. Right, left, or down, where do we go now? We're all searching for just give me more patience over ignorance, compassion for indifference. While we're searching yes, you to be right has made you blind. I know that in the end searching for distraction.